Officer Jake Morrison walked through the empty halls of Lincoln Elementary School with his German Shepherd partner Rex by his side. The summer break had started 3 days ago, and the building felt strange without the usual sounds of children laughing and running. Their footsteps echoed on the polished floor as they made their routine security check. Jake had been working with Rex for 4 years now, and he knew his partner better than anyone. Rex was smart, loyal, and had an amazing nose that could detect things no human ever could. Today something was different, though. Rex kept looking around nervously and his ears were pointed up like he was hearing something Jake could not hear. They walked past the main office and turned into the long hallway that led to the classrooms. This was where all the student artwork hung on the walls, along with some paintings that had been donated to the school over the years. Jake barely noticed them anymore since he had walked past them hundreds of times during his patrol rounds. Rex suddenly stopped walking. His whole body went stiff and he started sniffing the air very carefully. Jake looked around but could not see anything unusual. The hallway looked exactly the same as it always did. Clean floors, bright lights, and colorful pictures covering the walls. "What is it, boy?" Jake asked quietly. Rex did not answer, of course, but he started walking very slowly toward the wall on the left side. His nose was working overtime now, and Jake could see that something had caught his attention in a big way. Rex stopped right in front of a large painting that showed Earth from space. It was a beautiful picture that showed the blue and green planet floating in the darkness with white clouds swirling around it. Jake had seen this painting thousands of times, but had never really looked at it closely before. The small sign next to it said it had been donated to the school 20 years ago by someone called the Earth Studies Foundation. The German Shepherd began to whine softly and paw at the wall just below the painting. His behavior was getting more intense by the minute, and Jake knew that Rex had found something important. Dogs did not act this way for no reason, especially not Rex, who was always calm and professional during their work. Jake moved closer to examine the painting. It looked normal to him, but Rex was now scratching at the wall and whimpering like he was trying to tell Jake something urgent. The dog's nose kept pointing toward the painting, and he would look back at Jake as if to say, "Pay attention to this." "Easy, Rex, easy," Jake said as he reached out to touch the frame of the painting. The moment his fingers made contact with the edge of the frame, Rex barked once very loudly. This was unusual because Rex never barked during their security rounds unless there was real danger. Jake pulled out his flashlight and shined it on the painting from different angles. At first everything looked normal, but then he noticed something odd. The frame seemed slightly thicker than it should be for a painting of this size. He ran his fingers along the edges and found that there was a small gap between the frame and the wall that he had never noticed before. Rex was getting more excited now. He kept circling around Jake and pawing at the wall. His training had taught him to alert his partner when he found drugs or explosives, but this was different. Rex was not giving his usual alert signals. Instead, he seemed confused and worried about something. Jake decided to call his supervisor. This was beyond a normal security check now, and he needed backup. He pulled out his radio and called dispatch to report an unusual situation at the school. They told him to stay put and that someone would be there soon. While they waited, Jake tried to calm Rex down, but the dog would not relax. He kept going back to the painting and sniffing around it like his life depended on figuring out what was hidden there. Jake had seen Rex find hidden drugs and weapons before, but never had he acted quite like this. 20 minutes later, Principal Linda Carter arrived at the school along with Detective Amy Price from the local police department. Jake explained what had happened and showed them how Rex was behaving around the painting. Detective Price had worked with police dogs before, and she agreed that Rex had definitely detected something unusual. "Dogs can smell things we cannot even imagine," Detective Price said as she watched Rex continue to investigate the painting. "If he thinks something is behind that picture, then we should take it seriously." Principal Carter looked worried. She had been running Lincoln Elementary for 15 years and had never had any problems with the donated artwork. The painting had been hanging in the same spot since before she started working there, and no one had ever questioned it. Jake suggested they carefully remove the painting from the wall to see what Rex was so interested in. Principal Carter agreed, but she wanted to be very careful not to damage anything. The painting was probably worth quite a bit of money, and the school could not afford to replace it if something went wrong. Detective Price helped Jake lift the painting down from its hooks on the wall. It was heavier than Jake had expected for just a canvas and frame. As soon as they moved it away from the wall, Rex ran forward and started sniffing the spot where it had been hanging. What they saw behind the painting made all three humans step back in surprise. There was a small rectangular device attached to the wall that definitely had not been there when the painting was first hung. The device was about the size of a tablet computer, but it was made from materials that Jake had never seen before. It seemed to be glowing very faintly with a blue light. Rex sat down in front of the device and looked back at Jake with an expression that seemed to say, "I told you something was wrong here." Whatever this thing was, it had been hidden behind the painting, for who knows how long. And Rex had been the only one smart enough to detect. Detective Price immediately called for backup and told everyone to step away from the device until they could figure out what it was. Jake praised Rex and gave him a treat, but he could not stop staring at the strange object they had uncovered. This was definitely not going to be a normal day at work. Detective Price had called for the bomb squad, but when they arrived and examined the device, they said it was not an explosive. The strange rectangular object attached to the wall was something completely different and much more puzzling. The bomb squad leader, Tony Martinez, had never seen anything like it in his 20 years of experience. Principal Carter was getting more nervous by the minute. She kept asking what the device was and why someone would hide it behind a painting in her school. The safety of her students was her biggest concern, and she needed to know if the building was still safe for children to return to after summer break. Jake stayed close to Rex, who was still very interested in the mysterious device. The German Shepherd kept sniffing the air around it, but he was calmer now that the object was no longer hidden. It was like Rex had known all along that something was wrong, and now that the humans had found it, he could relax a little bit. Detective Price decided to call Ben Rodriguez, who worked for the city as a technology specialist. If anyone could figure out what this device was, it would be Ben. He had a degree in electrical engineering and had helped the police department with complicated cases before. Ben arrived at the school within an hour, carrying a large case full of electronic testing equipment. He was a quiet man in his 30s who loved solving puzzles, especially when they involved technology that he had never seen before. When he saw the device, his eyes went wide with surprise. "This is not made with any technology I recognize," Ben said as he set up his equipment to scan the device. "The materials look almost like crystal, but they are conducting electricity in ways that should not be possible." Ben used several different instruments to examine the device without touching it. His readings showed that it was definitely active and using power, but there were no visible power cords or batteries. Somehow it was getting energy from an unknown source. "Look at this," Ben said, pointing to his tablet computer that was displaying the scan results. "The device is transmitting data, but not to any local networks. The signal is going straight up through the roof and continuing into the sky." Principal Carter felt sick to her stomach. Someone had been using her school to transmit information, and she had no idea what kind of data was being sent or who was receiving it. The thought that her students might have been spied on made her very angry. Detective Price asked Ben if he could tell how long the device had been active. Ben ran some more tests and found traces of data that went back many years. The device had not been recently installed. It had been transmitting information for a very long time. Jake was petting Rex and thinking about how amazing it was that his partner had detected something that all the humans had missed for so many years. Rex seemed to understand that he had done something very important because he was wagging his tail and looking proud of himself, and continued his analysis and discovered that the device was not just transmitting data but also receiving it. Information was flowing both ways, which meant someone or something was actively controlling the device from a remote location. This was much more serious than just a simple recording device. "The technology in this thing is at least 50 years ahead of anything we have today," Ben told the group. "The processing power alone is incredible, and the materials it is made from do not exist in any database I can access." Detective Price was taking notes and trying to figure out their next steps. This was clearly beyond the capabilities of the local police department. She would need to contact the state authorities and possibly even federal agencies depending on what else they discovered about the device. Ben found something else that made everyone very uncomfortable. The device had multiple sensors that could detect heat, sound, movement, and even chemical signatures in the air. It had been recording everything that happened in the school hallway for years and years. "This thing knows how many people walked past it every day," Ben explained. "It recorded their voices, their body temperatures, even their breathing patterns. Someone has been collecting incredibly detailed information about everyone who spent time in this building. Principal Carter was now seriously worried about the legal implications. If parents found out that their children had been secretly monitored without consent, there would be lawsuits and investigations. The school district would want answers that she could not provide. Rex suddenly became alert again and started looking toward the front entrance of the school. His ears were up and he was listening to something that the humans could not hear. A few seconds later, they all heard the sound of cars pulling up outside. Detective Price looked out the window and saw 3 black vehicles with government license plates parking in front of the school. Men and women in dark suits were getting out of the cars and walking toward the building. This was happening much faster than she had expected. "Did you call federal agents?" Principal Carter asked Detective Price. The detective shook her head. She had only called the state police and they had said someone would contact her later. These people had arrived on their own, which meant they already knew about the device somehow. Ben quickly packed up his equipment while Jake put Rex on his leash. Whatever was about to happen, they needed to be ready for it. The fact that federal agents had arrived so quickly suggested that this device was connected to something much bigger than a simple local investigation. The front doors of the school opened and 6 people in suits walked into the building. They moved with purpose and clearly knew exactly where they were going. The leader of the group was a tall woman with short blonde hair who introduced herself as Director Kate Sullivan from a government agency that Jake had never heard of before. "We need everyone to step away from the device immediately," Director Sullivan said in a voice that made it clear this was not a request. "This building is now under federal jurisdiction, and we will be taking control of the investigation." Jake did not like the way these people had just taken over, but he knew better than to argue with federal agents. He moved Rex away from the wall and waited to see what would happen next. Principal Carter looked like she was about to protest, but Detective Price quietly told her to cooperate for now. Director Sullivan examined the device briefly, then spoke into a small radio. Within minutes, more agents arrived carrying specialized equipment that made Ben's tools look like toys. They began setting up a complex scanning system around the device while other agents cleared everyone else out of the hallway. Rex was watching everything very carefully, and Jake could tell that his partner was not comfortable with all these new people in the building. The German Shepherd stayed close to Jake's side, but his eyes never stopped moving as he kept track of every person and every piece of equipment that the agents brought into the school. Director Sullivan gathered everyone in the school library and closed the doors. Her team of agents had taken over the hallway completely and were running tests on the mysterious device with equipment that looked like it came from a science fiction movie. Jake could hear them talking through their radios, but their voices were too quiet to understand what they were saying. "What I'm about to tell you is classified information," Director Sullivan began. "You will all need to sign agreements that you will not discuss any of this with anyone outside this room." Principal Carter stood up and crossed her arms. "This is my school and these are my students who may have been put in danger. I have a right to know what is going on here." Director Sullivan nodded. "You absolutely do have that right. That is why I am going to explain everything to you. But first you need to understand that what we have discovered here is a matter of national security." Agent Carl Brooks, who had been standing quietly by the door, stepped forward. He was a serious-looking man in his 40s who carried himself like a soldier. "The device your dog found is not from Earth," he said simply. Everyone in the room stared at him in silence. Jake felt Rex shift beside him and realized that his partner was still on high alert, even though they were away from the device. Rex seemed to sense that something very important was happening. "The technology is of alien origin," Agent Brooks continued. "We have found similar devices in schools all over the world. They were all activated at exactly the same time 20 years ago, and they have all been transmitting data to the same location." Ben Rodriguez, who had been quiet since the federal agents arrived, finally spoke up. "Where is the data being transmitted to?" he asked. Director Sullivan pulled out a tablet and showed them a star chart. "The signals are being sent to a point in space approximately 40 light-years from Earth. We believe there is an alien civilization monitoring our planet, and they have been particularly interested in studying human children, Principal." Carter sat down heavily in one of the library chairs. The idea that alien beings had been watching her students for 20 years was almost too much to process. She thought about all the children who had walked past that painting every day, completely unaware that they were being observed. "Why children?" Detective Price asked. What could aliens possibly want to learn from elementary school students? Agent Brooks consulted his own tablet before answering. We think they are studying human development and social behavior. The devices are very sophisticated and can record not just images and sounds, but also emotional responses and stress levels. Jake was trying to wrap his mind around the idea that aliens were real and had been spying on Earth for 2 decades. How do you know all this? He asked. Have you been in contact with these aliens? Not directly, Director Sullivan replied, but we have been able to decode some of their transmissions. The aliens call themselves the Zenthari Collective, and they appear to be conducting a comprehensive study of human civilization. Rex suddenly stood up and walked to the window. He was looking up at the sky and his tail was not wagging anymore. Jake had never seen his partner act quite like this before. It was as if Rex could sense that they were being watched from somewhere far above. Your dog has remarkable instincts, Agent Brooks observed. Canine units have been instrumental in helping us locate these devices. Dogs can detect the electromagnetic signatures that the alien technology produces, even when our instruments cannot. Ben was fascinated despite the shocking nature of what they were learning. Can you tell me more about how the technology works? He asked. The materials and energy systems are unlike anything I have ever seen. Director Sullivan showed them some photographs on her tablet. The devices use crystalline computing systems that can process information millions of times faster than our best computers. They are powered by what we believe is some form of zero-point energy that does not require any external power source. Have other dogs found these devices? Jake asked. He was proud of Rex, but also curious about whether other K9 teams had made similar discoveries. Dozens of them over the past few months, Agent Brooks replied. It seems like the aliens may have changed something about their surveillance system recently. The devices are now producing stronger electromagnetic signals that dogs can detect more easily. Principal Carter was still struggling with the implications. Do the aliens pose a threat to the children? She asked. Should I be worried about the safety of my students when they return to school? We do not believe they intend any harm, Director Sullivan said. All evidence suggests that they are simply observing and collecting data. However, we are taking precautions and will be monitoring all the schools where devices have been found. Detective Price had been taking notes throughout the conversation. What happens now? She asked. Do we remove the device or leave it in place? We are going to leave it active for now, Agent Brooks explained. Our scientists want to study the technology and we hope to learn more about the aliens' intentions by monitoring their communications. Ben raised his hand like he was back in school. Will you be able to reverse engineer the technology? He asked hopefully. This could advance human science by centuries. Director Sullivan smiled for the first time since she had arrived. That is exactly what we are hoping. If we can understand how their technology works, it could revolutionize everything from computing to space travel. Jake looked down at Rex, who was still staring out the window at the sky. How many of these devices are there? He asked. We have found them in over 300 schools across 6 continents, Agent Brooks replied. The scale of their operation is enormous. They have been collecting data on millions of human children for 2 decades. What kind of data exactly? Principal Carter wanted to know. She was thinking about all the personal information that might have been recorded about her students and their families. Learning patterns, social interactions, emotional development, and physical growth, Director Sullivan listed. They seem particularly interested in how human children form relationships with each other and with animals. At the mention of animals, Rex turned around and looked directly at Jake. It was almost as if the dog understood what they were talking about. Jake scratched behind Rex's ears and wondered if the aliens had been studying the bond between humans and dogs as well. There is one more thing you should know, Agent Brooks said. We believe the aliens may be planning to make contact soon. The increased detectability of their devices might be intentional. They may want us to find them. The room fell silent as everyone considered what first contact with an alien civilization might mean for humanity. Jake looked around at the faces of his companions and realized that their little discovery at Lincoln Elementary School had just become part of the most important event in human history. 3 weeks after the discovery at Lincoln Elementary School, Jake and Rex found themselves at a secure government facility in Nevada. The building looked ordinary from the outside, but inside it was filled with the most advanced technology Jake had ever seen. Scientists and agents from around the world had gathered here to study the alien devices and try to understand What the Zenthari Collective wanted. Dr. Helen Price was the lead scientist, working on decoding the alien transmissions. She was a brilliant woman who specialized in languages and communication systems. Her team had made amazing progress in understanding how the aliens communicated with each other and what they had been saying about humanity. The Zenthari are not what we expected, Dr. Price explained to Jake as they walked through the main laboratory. They are not a single species, but rather a collective of many different alien races that work together. They have been traveling through space for millions of years studying other civilizations. Rex was walking beside Jake and seemed comfortable in the high-tech environment. The German Shepherd had become something of a celebrity among the scientists who were amazed by his ability to detect alien technology. Several other canine teams had been brought to the facility, and their dogs were helping to test new detection equipment. "What have you learned about why they are studying us?" Jake asked as they stopped in front of a large screen that displayed decoded alien messages. Dr. Price pulled up a translation of one of the recent transmissions. "This message was sent just yesterday," she said. "It talks about how surprised the Zenthari are by human behavior patterns. Apparently we are very different from other species they have studied." Jake read the translated message on the screen. The aliens seemed fascinated by the fact that humans formed emotional bonds with animals like dogs. Most intelligent species in the galaxy apparently viewed other life forms as either threats to be eliminated or resources to be used. They have been studying thousands of different species for millions of years, Dr. Price continued. But humans are the first ones they have found who actively seek companionship with other species, instead of just trying to dominate them. Rex looked up at Jake as if he understood what they were talking about. The bond between human and dog was something the aliens found completely unique in all their travels through space. No other intelligent species had ever developed the kind of partnership that existed between people and their animal companions. "Look at this message," Dr. Price said as she brought up another translation. "The Zenthari are having debates among themselves about what our relationship with animals means. Some of them think it shows that humans are weak, while others believe it demonstrates a kind of intelligence they have never encountered before." Jake was amazed to think that his partnership with Rex was being discussed by alien beings light years away from Earth. "What do most of them think?" he asked. "The majority seem to be impressed," Dr. Price replied. "They keep using a word that our computers translate as pack wisdom to describe how humans work with dogs. They think it shows that we understand something about cooperation that other species have missed." A young scientist named Tony Chen approached them, carrying a tablet full of data. "Dr. Price, we just decoded another batch of transmissions and you need to see this," he said excitedly. The new messages revealed something that shocked everyone in the facility. The Zenthari Collective was not just studying humanity out of curiosity. They were facing a crisis that threatened their entire civilization, and they believed humans might be the key to solving it. "Their collective is falling apart," Dr. Price explained as she read through the translations. "The different species that make up the Zenthari have been working together for so long that they have forgotten how to truly cooperate. They follow rules and protocols, but they no longer have any emotional connections to each other." Jake was trying to understand what this meant. "So they work together, but they do not actually care about each other?" he asked. "Exactly," Dr. Price replied. "And without emotional bonds, their society is becoming cold and efficient, but also fragile. When problems arise that cannot be solved by following established procedures, they struggle to adapt because no one is willing to take risks or make sacrifices for the good of others." Rex was lying at Jake's feet, but his ears were up and he seemed to be listening carefully to their conversation. Jake wondered if dogs could somehow sense the importance of what they were discussing. "The Zenthari have watched humans for 20 years, and they have seen something that gives them hope," Dr. Price continued. "We work with animals not because we have to, but because we choose to. We form bonds across species lines that make both humans and animals stronger and more capable." Tony Chen brought up more translated messages on his tablet. "Look at this one," he said. "They are specifically talking about police dogs and military working dogs. They cannot understand how humans and dogs can work together so perfectly without any formal command structure." Jake thought about his relationship with Rex. It was true that they worked as a team not because regulations required it, but because they trusted each other completely. Rex would risk his life to protect Jake, and Jake would do the same for Rex. This was not something that could be programmed or enforced through rules. The aliens have technology that is, thousands of years ahead of ours, Dr. Price said, but they have lost something that we still have. They do not know how to form genuine emotional connections anymore. What do they want from us? Jake asked. This was the question that everyone at the facility was trying to answer. Dr. Price showed him one final message that had been received just that morning. They want to learn from us, she said. The Zenthari Collective is asking for permission to make formal contact with humanity. They want us to teach them how to reconnect with each other emotionally. Jake looked down at Rex, who was now sitting up and watching him intently. The idea that aliens who had traveled across the galaxy wanted to learn about friendship and loyalty from humans and their dogs was almost impossible to believe. There is one more thing, Tony Chen added. The messages indicate that the Zenthari are not the only ones watching us. Apparently, word has spread through the galaxy about humanity's unique abilities. Other alien civilizations are also interested in making contact. Jake felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The discovery that Rex had made at Lincoln Elementary School had opened a door to the larger universe that humanity had never imagined existed. Soon people and their animal companions might be playing a crucial role in galactic civilization. Dr. Price was already making plans for the next phase of research. We need to understand more about how human-animal bonds work, she said. If we are going to help the Zenthari rebuild their emotional connections, we need to be able to explain exactly what makes our relationships with animals so special. Rex stood up and wagged his tail as if he approved of this plan. Jake scratched behind his partner's ears and realized that their routine patrol of an elementary school had somehow led them to become ambassadors for all of humanity. 2 months had passed since the first contact discussions began, and Jake found himself in a completely different world. The government facility had expanded into a massive complex where scientists, linguists, and animal behavior experts worked around the clock to prepare for humanity's first official meeting with alien beings. Rex had become the star of the operation. The German Shepherd was now part of a special research program led by Dr. Susan Martinez, who studied animal intelligence and communication. Every day, Rex participated in tests and exercises designed to help scientists understand exactly how the human-dog partnership worked. Rex shows remarkable cognitive abilities that go far beyond normal canine intelligence, Dr. Martinez explained to a room full of international observers. When he works with Jake, his problem-solving skills increase dramatically. This is not just training or conditioning. This is genuine cooperative intelligence. Jake watched as Rex performed a complex series of tasks that required him to work with both humans and other dogs to solve puzzles and navigate obstacles. The alien observers were particularly fascinated by how Rex could communicate his intentions to his human partners without using any formal language. The Zenthari had sent a small advance team to Earth 6 weeks ago. They arrived in a ship that appeared in Earth's orbit without any warning and immediately began broadcasting messages of peaceful intent. The aliens looked somewhat like tall, thin humans, but with longer arms and larger eyes that seemed to take in everything around them. Commander Zara was the leader of the Zenthari advance team. She was 7 feet tall with pale blue skin and spoke English with a strange musical accent that made every word sound like part of a song. Jake had met her several times and found her to be curious about everything, but especially interested in his relationship with Rex. Your bonding with canines defies all our understanding of interspecies relationships, Commander Zara told Jake during one of their meetings. In our collective, we have protocols for cooperation between different species, but we do not have what you call friendship. Jake was sitting with Rex in a comfortable meeting room that had been designed to make both humans and aliens feel welcome. How do your different species work together if they are not friends, he asked. We follow established procedures that have been developed over millions of years, Commander Zara replied. Each species has specific roles and responsibilities. We cooperate because it is logical and efficient, not because we care about each other personally. Rex was lying at Jake's feet, but his ears were up and he was watching Commander Zara carefully. The alien seemed to fascinate him just as much as he fascinated her. Jake had noticed that Rex was always calm around the Zenthari visitors, which was a good sign since dogs were excellent judges of character. Our collective is dying, Commander Zara continued. We have become so focused on efficiency and logic that we have lost the emotional connections that once held us together. When faced with new challenges that do not fit our established protocols, we often fail because no one is willing to take personal risks for others. Dr. Martinez entered the room, carrying a tablet full of research data. "Commander Zara, I have some new findings about Rex that I think will interest you," she said. The tablet showed brain scans of Rex taken while he was working with Jake compared to scans taken when he was alone. "Look at the activity in the areas associated with problem-solving and communication," Dr. Martinez pointed out. When Rex is working with Jake, both of their brains show increased activity in regions that normally would not be stimulated. Commander Zara studied the scans with intense concentration. "This suggests that the bonding process actually makes both species more intelligent," she said. "Exactly," Dr. Martinez replied. "The partnership does not just combine human and canine abilities. It creates new capabilities that neither species possesses alone." Jake had experienced this himself many times during his work with Rex. Together, they could solve problems and understand situations that would have been impossible for either of them individually. Rex could detect things that Jake could not sense, while Jake could analyze and plan in ways that Rex could not manage alone. "We have studied many intelligent species throughout the galaxy," Commander Zara said. "Most follow a pattern where they either dominate other life forms or avoid contact entirely. Humans are unique in actively seeking partnerships that benefit both species involved." Dr. Martinez showed them video footage of other human-animal partnerships from around the world. There were horses working with riders, dolphins cooperating with marine researchers, and even birds helping hunters locate prey. In every case, both the humans and animals seemed to gain abilities that neither possessed alone. "Your species has discovered something that we lost millions of years ago," Commander Zara admitted. "The Xanthari Collective once had emotional bonds between our member species, but we gradually replaced them with rules and procedures that we thought were more reliable." Jake was beginning to understand why the aliens needed human help. "So you want us to teach you how to rebuild those emotional connections," he said. "We do not even know if it is possible," Commander Zara replied sadly. "Our species have been following protocols for so long that many of us have forgotten how to feel genuine affection or loyalty toward others outside our own kind." Rex suddenly stood up and walked over to Commander Zara. The alien remained very still as the German Shepherd sniffed around her feet and then sat down directly in front of her. After a moment, Rex placed his head on Commander Zara's knee and looked up at her with his warm brown eyes. Commander Zara stared down at Rex in amazement. "What is he doing?" she asked quietly. "He is offering you friendship," Jake explained. "Rex can sense that you are sad and he wants to comfort you." Slowly and carefully, Commander Zara reached down and placed her long, thin hand on Rex's head. The moment she made contact, her large eyes filled with tears. "I had forgotten what this felt like," she whispered. Dr. Martinez was recording everything on her tablet. This was the first time any Xanthari had shown emotional response to physical contact with an Earth creature. The implications were enormous for the future of human-alien relations. "Rex accepts you as part of his pack," Jake told Commander Zara. "He does not care that you are from another planet or that you look different. He can sense that you have a good heart, and that is all that matters to him." Commander Zara continued to pet Rex, and more tears flowed down her face. "We have traveled across the galaxy studying other species, but we never thought to simply try befriending them," she said. "We always maintained scientific objectivity and emotional distance. That is about to change," Dr. Martinez said with a smile. "If Rex can form a bond with you, then we can teach others Xanthari to do the same with their own companions." Jake realized that his discovery with Rex at Lincoln Elementary School had led to something much bigger than he had ever imagined. They were not just helping aliens understand human behavior. They were potentially saving an entire galactic civilization by teaching them how to love again. 6 months after first contact, the world had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. Jake stood in the newly constructed International Cooperation Center, watching as human trainers worked with Xanthari visitors and their newly assigned companion animals. The sight of 7-foot-tall blue-skinned aliens learning to play fetch with golden retrievers had become surprisingly normal. Rex had become the unofficial ambassador for human-dog partnerships. He spent his days working with different Xanthari, individuals helping them understand how to form emotional bonds with Earth animals. The success rate was remarkable, with over 90% of participating aliens successfully bonding with their assigned companions. Commander Zara had been the first Xanthari to experience a full emotional connection with an Earth animal. Her companion was a border collie named Buddy, who had been specially trained to work with alien partners. The transformation in Commander Zara's personality had been dramatic and encouraging. Before I met Buddy, I followed procedures because they were logical, Commander Zara explained to a group of newly arrived Xanthari delegates. Now I follow them because I care about the outcomes for others. The difference has made me a better leader and a better member of our collective. Dr. Helen Price had been promoted to head the entire alien cooperation program. Her team had discovered that the emotional bonding process worked both ways. Not only were the Xanthari learning to feel affection again, but the animals were also developing enhanced cognitive abilities from their alien partnerships. Buddy can now solve mathematical problems that should be impossible for a dog, Dr. Price told Jake as they watched Commander Zara and her companion work through a complex spatial reasoning test. The Xanthari neurological system seemed to enhance the cognitive abilities of their animal partners in remarkable ways. Jake was amazed by how much Rex had changed over the past months. His German Shepherd partner had always been intelligent, but now he seemed to understand concepts that went far beyond normal canine comprehension. Rex could recognize alien writing symbols and even appeared to understand basic mathematical relationships. The success of the Human-Animal-Alien Partnership Program had attracted attention from across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of different alien civilizations had requested permission to visit Earth and learn about emotional bonding techniques. The small research facility had grown into a massive international complex that hosted visitors from throughout the known universe. Tony Chen had been assigned to work with a group of crystalline beings called the Axiom, who communicated through changes in their internal light patterns. His partner was a highly intelligent African gray parrot named Newton, who had learned to interpret the aliens' light-based language. Newton can translate for the Axiom faster than any computer system we have built, Tony explained to Jake. The bond between them allows for communication that goes beyond simple translation. Newton actually understands the emotional context behind the Axiom's light patterns. Jake found this development particularly interesting because it suggested that the bonding process could work with many different types of Earth animals, not just dogs. Cats were successfully partnering with the feline like Villani, while dolphins were working with aquatic species called the tide runners. Rex seemed to enjoy his role as a teacher and mentor. He spent time with newly arrived animals, helping them adjust to working with alien partners. Jake often watched his dog demonstrating proper bonding techniques to confused cats or nervous horses who were meeting their first extraterrestrial companions. Rex has become a bridge between species in ways we never imagined possible, Dr. Susan Martinez told Jake. He understands both human and alien psychology well enough to help facilitate successful partnerships between Earth animals and galactic visitors. The most surprising development had been the discovery that some humans could form direct emotional bonds with alien species without needing animal intermediaries. A small percentage of people seemed naturally capable of the kind of empathetic connection that most required animal partners to achieve. Lisa Anderson was one of these naturally gifted humans. She had successfully bonded with 3 different alien species and was now training others to develop similar abilities. Her work was particularly important because it suggested that humanity's capacity for interspecies bonding was even greater than originally thought. Some humans have the natural ability to extend their empathy across any species barrier, Lisa explained to a group of trainees. With practice and proper techniques, we can teach more people to develop these capabilities. Jake had tried working directly with several alien species, but found that he was much more effective when Rex was involved. The dog seemed to amplify Jake's natural empathetic abilities and help him understand the emotional needs of alien partners. The Xanthari collective had undergone dramatic changes since the bonding program began. Reports from their homeworlds indicated that emotional connections were being re-established between different member species for the first time in thousands of years. Crime rates were dropping, productivity was increasing, and there was a general sense of renewed purpose throughout their civilization. The bonding techniques you have taught us are spreading throughout our collective faster than we ever expected, Commander Zara reported during a weekly progress meeting. Entire worlds that had been following cold logical protocols for millennia are now rediscovering the joy of genuine cooperation. Dr. Price was documenting everything for historical records and future research. We are witnessing the rehabilitation of an entire galactic civilization, she told Jake. The techniques we develop here will be used to help other species throughout the universe. Rex was now working with his third generation of alien students. The first group had returned to their homeworlds to establish bonding programs with local animal species. The second group had become instructors helping to train newly arrived aliens. The current group was learning advanced techniques that would allow them to work with multiple animal partners simultaneously. Jake was proud of how far Rex had come from a simple police dog to an interstellar ambassador, but he was even more proud of how the German Shepherd had maintained his essential character throughout all the changes. Rex was still loyal, playful, and protective, just as he had always been. Rex understands that he is part of something much bigger than himself, Jake told Dr. Martinez. But he never forgets that his primary loyalty is still to me and to our partnership. The success of the Earth-based program had led to invitations for human-animal teams to visit alien worlds and establish bonding centers throughout the galaxy. Jake and Rex had been selected to lead the first expedition to the Xanthari homeworld, where they would help establish a permanent interspecies cooperation facility. As Jake prepared for their upcoming journey to the stars, he reflected on how much their lives had changed since that day at Lincoln Elementary School. Rex's discovery of the hidden alien device had led to the most important advancement in galactic civilization in millions of years, and it all started with a dog who knew something was wrong with a painting. 1 year after the first alien contact, Jake found himself aboard a Xanthari transport ship traveling toward their homeworld 40 light-years from Earth. The sea journey that should have taken decades was completed in just 2 weeks using alien faster-than-light technology that human scientists were still trying to understand. Rex had adapted to space travel remarkably well. The German Shepherd seemed to enjoy the low gravity, sections of the ship where he could leap amazing distances and perform acrobatic moves that would be impossible on Earth. The Xanthari crew members were fascinated by Rex's playful behavior and often stopped their work to watch him explore the ship. Commander Zara had insisted that Jake and Rex be the first human dog team to visit the Xanthari homeworld. Your partnership with Rex started this entire transformation, she explained. It is only fitting that you should be the ones to help us establish our first permanent bonding center. The Xanthari homeworld was called Kepler Prime, and it was unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. The planet had 3 moons and 2 suns, which created amazing lighting effects throughout the day. Cities floated in the sky connected by bridges of crystalline material that sparkled in the multicolored sunlight. Jake was amazed by the advanced technology, but he was even more impressed by the changes in Xanthari society since the bonding program had begun. Everywhere they went, Jake saw aliens working together with obvious affection and cooperation, rather than the cold efficiency that had previously characterized their civilization. Look at this, Commander Zara said as they toured one of the floating cities. Before our contact with humanity, these workers would have followed precise protocols and never spoken to each other unless required. Now they share meals together and even celebrate each other's accomplishments. Rex was a celebrity on Kepler Prime. Everywhere they went, crowds of Xanthari gathered to see the famous Earth dog who had helped teach their species how to feel emotions again. Rex seemed to enjoy the attention and wagged his tail enthusiastically whenever young Xanthari children approached him. The bonding center they were building would be the largest facility of its kind in the galaxy. It would house thousands of Earth animals and provide training for Xanthari from across their collective who wanted to learn emotional bonding techniques. Construction was already well underway when Jake and Rex arrived. Dr. Elena Foster had come to Kepler Prime 6 months earlier to oversee the design and construction of the facility. She was a veterinarian and animal psychologist who had become one of Earth's leading experts on interspecies bonding techniques. We have brought over 2,000 animals from Earth, Dr. Foster explained as she gave Jake and Rex a tour of the completed sections. Dogs, cats, horses, birds, dolphins, and even some exotic species that show particular aptitude for bonding with alien partners. Jake was impressed by the scale of the operation. The facility covered several square miles and included habitats designed to meet the needs of many different Earth species. There were forests for land animals, oceans for marine life, and even specialized environments for creatures that required specific temperature or atmospheric conditions. Rex immediately began exploring the facility and greeting the other Earth animals who had made the journey to Kepler Prime. Jake watched as his partner communicated with dogs from many different breeds, as well as cats, horses, and even a few primates who had been selected for their intelligence and social skills. Rex has become something of a legend among the Earth animals here, Dr. Foster told Jake. They all seemed to understand that he was the one who started this whole adventure, and they looked to him for leadership and guidance. The first group of Zenthari students had already begun working with their assigned animal partners. Jake observed several bonding sessions and was amazed by how quickly the aliens were learning to form emotional connections with their Earth companions. Coordinator Thane was a senior Zenthari official who had been assigned to oversee the bonding program on their home world. He had been one of the most logical and emotionally distant members of their society before beginning work with a golden retriever named Max. Max has taught me that logic alone is insufficient for true leadership, Coordinator Thane explained to Jake. Emotional intelligence allows me to understand the needs and motivations of others in ways that pure analysis cannot achieve, Jake watched as Coordinator Thane and Max worked together to solve complex administrative challenges. The golden retriever seemed to sense when his alien partner was becoming too focused on details and would gently redirect his attention to the broader implications of their decisions. The transformation in our society has exceeded our most optimistic projections, Commander Zara told Jake as they reviewed progress reports from across the Zenthari collective. Planets that had been experiencing social problems for centuries are now reporting dramatic improvements in cooperation and productivity. Rex had been assigned his own Zenthari student to work with during their stay on Kepler Prime. Student Kira was a young alien who had never experienced emotional bonding with any other being. She was nervous and uncertain about the entire process, but Rex seemed determined to help her succeed. Jake watched as Rex patiently worked with student Kira using the same gentle persistence that had made him such an excellent police dog. The German Shepherd would demonstrate simple bonding exercises and then encourage Kira to try them herself, always remaining supportive and encouraging. Rex understands that bonding cannot be forced, Dr. Foster observed. He allows each student to progress at their own pace while providing constant emotional support and guidance. The breakthrough with student Kira came during their third week on Kepler Prime. She had been struggling to understand the concept of unconditional loyalty when Rex demonstrated it by protecting her from a small accident in the training facility. When a piece of equipment fell toward Kira, Rex immediately moved to shield her from harm, even though he barely knew her. He protected me without thinking about his own safety, Student Kira said with wonder in her voice. I have never experienced anything like this before. From that moment forward, Student Kira and Rex formed a strong bond that served as a model for other struggling students. Jake realized that Rex had not just learned to work with aliens, but had actually become a teacher who could help them understand concepts that their highly logical minds had difficulty grasping. The success of the Kepler Prime facility led to requests from other alien civilizations who wanted to establish similar programs on their own worlds. The Axiom had already committed to building 3 bonding centers, while the Volani were planning a facility that would specialize in feline-human-alien partnerships. We are looking at the beginning of a galactic transformation, Commander Zara told Jake. Species that have had no contact with each other for millions of years are now requesting to participate in bonding programs. Jake felt overwhelmed by the scope of what they had accomplished. What had started as a routine security patrol at an elementary school had become the foundation for a new era of galactic cooperation and understanding. Rex seemed to sense the importance of their work but remained focused on the individual relationships he was building with each new student. Jake realized that this was perhaps the most important lesson his partner could teach the aliens, that every relationship mattered, and that true change happened one bond at a time. 5 years had passed since Rex first discovered the alien device behind the painting at Lincoln Elementary School. Jake stood in his office at the United Nations Interspecies Relations Headquarters in New York, looking out at a world that had been transformed beyond recognition. The building that housed the headquarters was itself a marvel of human-alien cooperation. Designed jointly by Earth architects and Xanthari engineers, it featured living walls that changed color based on the emotional states of the occupants and gravity control, systems that allowed beings from different worlds to work comfortably together. Rex was now 10 years old, but thanks to Xanthari biotechnology, his lifespan had been extended and his health enhanced. The German Shepherd looked and acted like a dog half his age and showed no signs of slowing down. He had become the most famous animal in galactic history, and his image appeared on monuments throughout dozens of starry systems. Jake's title was now Director of Interspecies Relations for Earth, and he worked directly with the United Nations Security Council on matters involving the dozens of alien civilizations that had established diplomatic relations with humanity. It was a far cry from his days as a local police officer, but he had never forgotten the simple principles that had guided his partnership with Rex. The morning briefing is ready, Director Morrison, his assistant Amy Rodriguez said as she entered the office carrying a tablet full of reports from across the galaxy. The briefing covered developments on 17 different worlds where human-animal-alien bonding programs were now operating. The success rate remained consistently high, with over 95% of participating aliens successfully forming emotional connections with their Earth animal partners. Student Kira, who Rex had worked with during their first visit to Kepler Prime, had become coordinator. Kira and now supervised bonding programs throughout the Xanthari collective. Her partnership with a border collie named Scout had become a model for other young Xanthari who were learning to balance logic with emotional intelligence. Coordinator Kira reports that the latest group of students from the outer Xanthari worlds has achieved full bonding status in record time. Amy read from her tablet. The techniques developed by Rex and his training team are becoming more refined with each new group. Jake smiled as he listened to the reports. Rex was sleeping under his desk, but his ears twitched whenever his name was mentioned in the briefings. Even at his advanced age, the German Shepherd remained alert and interested in the work they were doing together. The most exciting development was the news from the Axiom homeworld, where human dolphin teams had successfully established the first underwater bonding facility. The crystalline beings had adapted to working with marine mammals better than anyone had expected, and were now planning to expand their program to include whales and other large ocean creatures. Dr. Lisa Chen reports that the Axiom dolphin partnerships are producing remarkable results in mathematical problem-solving. Amy continued, the dolphins' natural sonar abilities combined with Axiom crystal technology are allowing them to map underwater cities with incredible precision. Rex stood up and walked over to the window where he could see Central Park. The park had been expanded to include habitats for visiting alien beings and their Earth animal partners. On any given day, Jake could look out and see Xanthari children playing with puppies, Villani researchers working with cats, and Axiom ambassadors swimming with dolphins in specially constructed pools. Lincoln Elementary School had become a historical landmark and was now home to the Museum of First Contact. The painting that had hidden the alien device was displayed prominently with a plaque honoring Rex's discovery. School children from around the world visited daily to learn about how a simple security patrol had changed the course of galactic history. Principal Linda Carter had retired from education to become a full-time advocate for interspecies cooperation in schools. Her program now operated in over 50,000 schools worldwide, teaching children how to work with both Earth animals and visiting alien beings. Principal Carter's latest report shows remarkable progress in childhood development programs. Amy read, children who participate in interspecies bonding activities show enhanced empathy, creativity, and problem-solving abilities compared to control groups. Jake thought about how appropriate it was that children had become some of the most effective ambassadors for human-alien cooperation. Their natural openness and lack of prejudice made them ideal partners for alien beings who were learning to overcome millions of years of emotional isolation. Rex had requested to visit Lincoln Elementary School that afternoon. Even after all these years, he seemed to remember the hallway where he had first detected the alien technology. Jake had made it a tradition to return to the school every year on the anniversary of their discovery. Rex wants to see the new memorial garden, Jake told Amy as he prepared to leave for the school visit. The students there have been working with young Xanthari to create a display about human-animal partnerships. The memorial garden was a beautiful combination of earth plants and alien flora that had been designed to represent the unity between different worlds. Rex always spent time there greeting the visiting students and demonstrating the bonding techniques that had become his specialty at the school. Jake was met by the current principal, Dr. Robert Kim, who had taken over the interspecies education program. Rex has become something of a legend here, Dr. Kim said as they walked toward the memorial garden. The students look forward to his visits all year long. In the garden, Rex was surrounded by children and young aliens who were all eager to meet the famous dog who had started the galactic cooperation movement. Jake watched as his partner patiently allowed himself to be petted by dozens of small hands while demonstrating the patience and gentleness that had made him such an effective teacher. Rex still remembers what it was like to be a simple police dog, Jake told Dr. Kim. Despite all the changes in our lives, he has never lost sight of his basic purpose, which is to protect and serve others. A young Xanthari, student named Student Vale, approached Rex nervously. She was part of the first generation of aliens to be born after the bonding programs began, and she had never known a world without human-animal partnerships. Rex sensed her nervousness and gently encouraged her to pet him. "He is so patient with everyone," Student Vale said in accented English as she scratched behind Rex's ears. "I can see why humans and dogs work so well together." Jake realized that Student Vale represented the future of galactic civilization. She and millions like her would grow up, understanding that cooperation and emotional bonding were natural parts of intelligent life rather than strange concepts that had to be learned through training programs. As the sun set over the memorial garden, Jake reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. What had started as a routine security check had become the foundation for a new era of peace and cooperation that spanned the stars. Rex seemed to understand the importance of the moment. He sat quietly beside Jake, looking out at the garden where children and aliens played together with their animal partners. The German shepherd's tail wagged slowly as he watched the scene, and Jake could almost imagine that his partner was remembering that day 5 years ago, when everything had changed. "You did good, boy," Jake said quietly as he scratched Rex behind the ears. "You changed everything for the better." Rex looked up at Jake with the same loyal expression he had always worn, then turned back to watch the children in the garden. Somewhere in the distance, the stars were beginning to appear, and Jake knew that on dozens of worlds, human-animal-alien teams were working together to build a better future for all species in the galaxy.